Citizenship. For most people who've gone through the immigration process, the years of paperwork, the interviews, the waiting, the uncertainty, getting that certificate feels like the finish line. It feels like the moment when you finally, permanently belong. But here's what nobody told you. That certificate is not a guarantee. It is not untouchable. And right now, in 2025, the federal government has launched a coordinated, large-scale operation specifically designed to review and potentially reverse naturalized citizenship for thousands of Americans. This is not rumor. This is not political opinion. This is documented federal policy, and it has a name: Operation Twin Shield. If you are a naturalized citizen, or if you have a family member who has gone through naturalization, what I'm about to share with you matters. Stay with me through this entire video because there are specific details, specific categories of people, and a specific action plan that could directly affect your legal status. My name is Raymond Crivello. I'm a senior immigration analyst and consultant, and on this channel, I break down complex immigration developments into clear, fact-based analysis you can actually understand. I want to be transparent with you from the start. This channel is not about fear. It is not about politics. It is about giving you accurate, timely, policy-based information so that you can make informed decisions about your immigration future. And I want to be very clear about one important thing. I am not your attorney, and this content is for educational and informational purposes only. Every immigration case is unique, and the only person qualified to advise you about your specific situation is a licensed immigration attorney. With that said, let's talk about what Operation Twin Shield actually is, who launched it, what it means legally, and what you can do right now to protect yourself. Operation Twin Shield was officially announced by USCIS, the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and it represents one of the most aggressive federal denaturalization initiatives in modern American history. Here's what we know from the official USCIS news releases and corroborating government sources. In September 2025, a large-scale investigation was conducted in the Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan area. USCIS reviewed approximately 1,000 naturalization cases in that region alone. Of those 1,000 cases, investigators found fraud indicators or non-compliance issues in 275 of them. That is roughly 27.5%, more than 1 in 4 cases reviewed. Now let me be precise about what flagged means in this context, because this is where a lot of people are getting confused. Being flagged does not automatically mean your citizenship is revoked. What it means is that USCIS has identified enough concern in those cases to refer them to the Department of Justice for further review, and potentially for denaturalization proceedings. Denaturalization, that is the legal process through which the federal government can strip a naturalized citizen of their citizenship. And while this process has existed in law for a long time, going back decades, it has historically been rare. We are talking about dozens of cases per year, nationally. What is different now is the scale. According to policy tracking reports, USCIS has been instructed to refer between 100 and 200 denaturalization cases to the Department of Justice every single month. Every single month. That is not dozens per year. That is potentially thousands per year. And Operation Twin Shield is not a standalone effort. It is part of a broader strategy that the current administration has embedded into federal enforcement. The White House has formally established what they're calling the Department of Justice Division for National Fraud Enforcement, and denaturalization sits at the center of that mission. Now let's talk about the law, because this is where I want you to really pay attention. Denaturalization is governed by the Immigration and Nationality Act, the INA, specifically under sections that address the conditions under which naturalization can be revoked. Under the INA, denaturalization can occur for several reasons. These include obtaining citizenship through illegal means, willfully misrepresenting or concealing material facts during the naturalization process, or acquiring citizenship in violation of any provision of the naturalization laws. That phrase, willfully misrepresenting or concealing material facts, is critically important because federal investigators are not just looking for people who committed crimes after naturalization. They are going back and looking at what was on your original applications, what was on your N-400, what was on your I-485, what you said in your interview. But here's where this becomes critical. The government does not need to prove that you committed a crime. They need to establish that there was a material misrepresentation, meaning information that, if known at the time, might have changed the outcome of your naturalization. That is a legal standard that is broader than most people realize. And administratively, the government can challenge naturalization through federal district court. This is a civil proceeding, not a criminal one. That means the burden of proof is different. The standard is preponderance of the evidence, not beyond a reasonable doubt. In practical terms, that means the government needs to show that it is more likely than not that fraud occurred. Under the current regulatory environment, USCIS has expanded its authority to issue notices to appear in removal proceedings, and DOJ attorneys are now tasked specifically with pursuing these civil denaturalization cases. So the legal architecture exists, and the political will to use it at a scale we have not seen before is now clearly in motion. Let me break down exactly who is most directly in the crosshairs of Operation Twin Shield, based on what the government has publicly stated and what investigators are looking for. The first category is people who have prior criminal records that were not disclosed, or were allegedly not disclosed, during the naturalization process. Under the INA, certain criminal convictions can make a person ineligible for naturalization. If you had a conviction and it was not reflected in your application, that is a potential basis for denaturalization proceedings. The second category involves documentation fraud. The USCIS newsroom has cited specific examples of individuals who used fraudulent foreign documents during their immigration process. One documented case involves a person who allegedly obtained a fake death certificate from Kenya for approximately $100 in order to appear as though a first marriage had legally ended, clearing the path for a fraudulent subsequent immigration petition. The third category is individuals who are alleged to have lied on their citizenship applications and then engaged in subsequent illegal activity, including, in at least one cited case, voting illegally. The indictment of several individuals in New Jersey related to alleged false statements on citizenship applications and illegal voting is publicly documented. This is what many green card applicants and new citizens are misunderstanding. The government is not limiting this review to recent naturalizations. They are going back years, in some cases, potentially decades. This is retroactive scrutiny. Now, who is indirectly affected? The answer is anyone connected to a flagged case, a spouse who immigrated based on a petition from someone whose status is now under review, children who derived citizenship through a parent. In some scenarios, even family members who sponsored others using their citizenship status could face derivative implications. Let me give you a realistic hypothetical scenario so this doesn't feel abstract. Imagine a man, let's call him Ahmed. He arrived in the United States in 2009 as a refugee. Over years, he adjusted status, worked, paid taxes, built a life. In 2017, he naturalized as a U.S. citizen. He is now married, has 2 children born in the U.S., and owns a small business. Ahmed never committed a serious crime, but in 2010, when he was adjusting status, he had a minor misdemeanor, a traffic-related offense, that he did not fully disclose on his application. Perhaps he didn't understand the question. Perhaps he was told it was minor enough not to matter. Perhaps a notario, an immigration consultant without legal credentials, helped him fill out the form incorrectly. Now, 15 years later, Ahmed receives a letter. USCIS has flagged his case as part of a records review. His attorney tells him that the original omission, even if unintentional, could be characterized as a material misrepresentation. He is not a criminal. He loves this country. but he is now facing a civil proceeding that could, if the government prevails, strip him of the citizenship he spent years earning, and potentially affect his children's immigration status. This is not a hypothetical designed to frighten you. This is the legal reality that hundreds of families may be facing right now. And the only thing that separates Ahmed from someone who is protected is documentation, legal counsel, and awareness. There's one more detail that most people are missing, and I want to address it directly. There's a common assumption that once you have citizenship, you have full constitutional protection, that the government cannot simply take it away without extensive due process. And that assumption is largely correct under well-established case law. The Supreme Court has held that citizenship is a precious right, and that the government bears a heavy burden in denaturalization proceedings. However, and this is the however that matters, the current administration is making the argument that in cases involving clear fraud, that burden is met more easily. They are pushing the boundaries of existing precedent, and court challenges are not just possible, they are already beginning to emerge. If you're asking what happens next from a policy standpoint, we are in the early phase of what will almost certainly be a prolonged legal battle. Some denaturalization cases will be challenged in federal district courts. Some may reach the circuit courts of appeals. And depending on how lower courts rule, we could see Supreme Court review in the coming years. What this means for you, practically, is that the legal landscape around naturalized citizenship is in a state of genuine uncertainty right now. The regulatory framework exists for the government to pursue these cases. The scale is unprecedented, and the court system has not yet fully weighed in on how far this authority extends. However, this protection may not be permanent in every case, particularly for individuals with complex immigration histories or any prior discrepancies in their applications. Here is what I want you to do, practically today, if any part of this conversation applies to you or someone you know. Step 1. Pull your immigration records, all of them. Your original visa applications, your I-485 or adjustment of status documentation, your N-400 naturalization application, your interview notes if you have them, any criminal history disclosures or waivers that were part of your file. You need to know exactly what your record shows before anyone else does. Step 2. Do not make any additional international travel without first consulting an immigration attorney if you have any complexity in your immigration history. Travel can have unforeseen consequences in the current enforcement environment. Step 3. Consult a licensed immigration attorney. Not a notario, not an immigration consultant, not a friend who went through the process. A licensed attorney who can review your file, identify any potential vulnerabilities, and advise you on your specific situation. If you cannot afford private representation, legal aid organizations and nonprofit immigration legal services are available in most major cities. Step 4. Monitor USCIS official communications. Set a bookmark for uscis.gov and check the newsroom section regularly. If you receive any correspondence from USCIS or DOJ regarding your naturalization, do not ignore it and do not respond without legal counsel. Step 5. Be vigilant about immigration scams. In moments of heightened fear around immigration enforcement, bad actors prey on vulnerable communities. Anyone who promises to protect your citizenship for an upfront fee, or who claims to have inside information about who will or won't be targeted, is very likely a scam. Protect your money and your documentation. I want to take a moment before we close to say something directly. Immigration status is not just paperwork. For the people living through it, it is the foundation of everything. It determines whether your family stays together or gets separated, whether you can work and provide for your children, whether you can build equity, plan for retirement, travel safely, pursue the life you came here to build. Naturalized citizenship, for millions of Americans, represents the culmination of sacrifice, patience, and courage, and the idea that it could be reviewed, challenged, or revoked, not for crimes committed after naturalization, but for alleged discrepancies from years or decades ago, is something that deserves serious, sober attention. I am not here to tell you to panic. I am here to tell you to be informed, because in immigration, information is protection. Knowledge of your rights, your record, and your options is the single most powerful tool you have. The government has legal authority to pursue fraud. That authority is legitimate and important, but it must be exercised within constitutional limits, and the courts will ultimately determine where those limits lie. In the meantime, the most responsible thing any naturalized citizen with any complexity in their history can do is get ahead of this, with legal counsel and with complete transparency about their own file. If you want accurate, fast, and reliable immigration updates, subscribe to Raymond Crivello right now and turn on notifications. Immigration policy is changing rapidly, and staying informed is no longer optional. It's essential. If this video helped you understand what Operation Twin Shield means for you or your family, please leave a comment below with your visa category or the stage you're at in your immigration journey. It helps me understand what topics matter most to this community, and it helps others who are in the same situation know they are not alone. Share this video with someone who is a naturalized citizen or who has a family member going through the immigration process. They may not know this is happening. And liking this video helps this factual, policy-based coverage reach more people who need it. I'll see you in the next one.